The massive Kelthari warships dropped out of hyperspace with a thunderous roar that echoed across the empty void. Their dark hulls gleamed under the light of the distant star as scanning arrays immediately began sweeping the planet below. Commander, Vetsver settled into his command chair, his four eyes focusing on the holographic display that materialized before him. Report, he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. Sir, we're detecting a small settlement on the third continent, his tactical officer replied, manipulating the display controls. Population approximately 3,000. Energy signatures are minimal, consistent with basic agricultural operations. The XVAs studied the readings carefully. Scattered buildings dotted the landscape like seeds thrown by a careless hand. The power output barely registered on their sensors, suggesting the most primitive of technologies. No defensive installations, no military signatures, no signs of advanced weaponry. Just another backwater colony clinging to existence on the edge of civilized space. Any response to our arrival? He asked. None, sir. They appear to be ... farming. A dismissive growl escaped Vexver's throat. After months of fierce battles against the Nexari Republic, this felt almost insulting. His fleet had just finished reducing 3 heavily fortified worlds to submission. And now they were sent to collect tribute from farmers who probably didn't even know what a plasma cannon looked like. Far below on the planet's surface, Hyun Woo Kim straightened his back and wiped sweat from his brow. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as he guided the automated harvester through endless rows of golden grain. His weathered hands, scarred from years of manual labor, gripped the controls with practiced ease. To anyone watching, he appeared to be exactly what he seemed, a man who had spent his entire life coaxing life from the soil. The harvester hummed quietly as it worked, its blades cutting through the grain with mechanical precision. Hyun Woo had been working these fields for 15 years. And he knew every rock, every hill, every patch of soil that required special attention. His simple work clothes were faded and patched, his boots worn smooth by countless walks across the farmland. When the shadow of the first Kelthari dropship passed overhead, Hyun Woo barely glanced up. He had been expecting this moment for months, ever since the long-range sensors had detected the Empire's approach. But his face showed only mild curiosity, the same expression he might wear when noticing unusual weather patterns. The dropships landed in the central square with a hiss of cooling engines, their ramps lowered to reveal squads of Kelthari soldiers in full battle armor, weapons ready for immediate deployment. The aliens moved with the confidence of a species that had never faced serious resistance from primitive worlds, the human. Colonists emerged from their buildings slowly, cautiously, but without panic. They gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones as they watched the alien soldiers establish a perimeter. Their faces showed concern and uncertainty, but not the terror that usually accompanied a Kelthari invasion. Bo Young Park stepped forward from the crowd. She was a small woman, with silver hair pulled back in a practical bun, and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners from years of smiling. Her simple dress and worn apron spoke of someone who spent her days managing household duties and community concerns. She walked with the measured steps of someone whose joints ached from age, but whose spirit remained unbroken. "Welcome to our colony," she said, her voice carrying across the square with surprising clarity. "I am Bo Young Park, elected representative of this settlement. We have heard news of your empire's expansion across the galaxy." Commander Vexver emerged from his command shuttle, his imposing figure casting a long shadow across the square. He wore ceremonial armor that gleamed with the polished perfection of countless victories. His presence was designed to intimidate, to make conquered populations understand their new reality immediately. "You will surrender all authority to the Kelthari Empire," he announced, his voice amplified by his suit speakers. "Your resources, your labor, your very lives now serve the greater glory of our civilization." Bo Young nodded thoughtfully, as if considering a reasonable business proposition. "Of course, Commander. We are simple farmers, not warriors. We have no desire for conflict." She gestured toward the surrounding fields. "Perhaps we can discuss how our humble crops might serve your great civilization." "Harvest this year." The alien commander found himself momentarily surprised by the humans' practical response. Most species either cowered in terror or made futile attempts at resistance. These humans seemed to understand their situation immediately and were prepared to cooperate. "You will provide detailed reports of your agricultural output," the X4 commanded. "Our technicians will assess your production capabilities and determine appropriate tribute levels." "Certainly," Boyoung replied with a warm smile. "Would you and your officers care to join us for a meal? We have fresh bread and vegetables from our gardens. It would be an honor to share our food with such distinguished guests." As the alien soldiers began their assessment of the colony, none of them noticed the subtle exchanges of glances between the colonists. None of them detected the almost imperceptible hand signals that passed between seemingly random farmers. They saw only what they expected to see: a peaceful agricultural community resigned to their fate, ready to serve their new masters without complaint. Commander the Xver began composing his victory report in his mind, confident that this would be recorded as the Empire's most efficient conquest. Junior Technician Velkoth crouched beside the power distribution panel, his scanner beeping softly as it analyzed the energy flow patterns. The readings made no sense. The fusion reactor output was enormous, far beyond what any farming colony should require. His mandibles clicked together in confusion as he studied the data streaming across his handheld device. "These numbers are wrong," he muttered to himself, running the scan again. The same results appeared on his screen. Power conduits rated 4. Military-grade energy distribution snaked through the buildings like a hidden nervous system. The electromagnetic signatures were all wrong for simple agricultural equipment. He approached his superior, Senior Technician Mordex, who was supervising the installation of communication monitoring equipment in the colony's main administrative building. The older Kelthari barely looked up from his work as Velkoth approached. "Sir, I need to report some irregularities," Velkoth said, holding up his scanner. "The power systems in this colony are far more advanced than they should be. These farmers have fusion reactors that could power a small city, and their energy conduits are military specification." Mordox finally glanced at the readings, his 4 eyes scanning the data quickly. "It's probably just primitive human over-engineering. These species often build things larger than necessary when they lack proper technical knowledge." "But, sir, the electromagnetic signatures suggest active shielding systems, and are you questioning my assessment, Junior Technician?" Mordox's voice carried a warning edge. Velkoth's head fins drooped slightly. "No, sir. I just thought it was worth investigating further." "Focus on your assigned duties," Mordox commanded. "These humans are clearly simple farmers. Don't let your imagination create problems where none exist." Despite his superior's dismissal, Velkoth couldn't shake his concerns. That afternoon, he decided to observe the colonists more carefully during their daily routines. He positioned himself near the central square, pretending to calibrate his equipment while watching the humans go about their business. The first thing he noticed was their movement patterns. When the colonists walked through the settlement, they maintained perfect spacing without seeming to think about it. Their paths formed natural coverage patterns, ensuring that no area was left unwatched. This wasn't the random movement of farmers going about their chores. It was the coordinated positioning of trained personnel. J-Min Lee emerged from the main power facility, wiping his hands on a greasy cloth. He wore simple work clothes and had the calloused hands of someone who spent time with machinery. When Velkoth approached him about the power systems, Jamin smiled warmly. "Ah, you're interested in our energy setup," Jamin said, his Korean accent making his words sound humble and friendly. "We use advanced hydroponic systems for our crops. The fusion reactors provide power for our automated machinery, environmental control systems, and water purification plants." Velkoth listened carefully as Jamin explained the technical details. The human's knowledge seemed genuine. He spoke about fusion reactor maintenance with the casual expertise of someone who had worked with the technology for years. He knew about plasma containment fields, deuterium injection rates, and magnetic bottle configurations. "Very impressive for a farming colony," Velkoth commented, trying to sound casual. "We believe in using the best technology available," Jamin replied. "Our crops feed not just our own people, but several nearby settlements. Quality equipment ensures quality results. Yet something about the conversation felt rehearsed. Jamin's answers were too smooth, too prepared. He anticipated questions before they were asked, and had explanations ready for every technical detail. Most troubling was the way his eyes constantly scanned the surrounding area, noting the positions of other colonists and Kelthari soldiers. Later that day, Velkoth observed Minho Park working with the livestock. The human wore simple coveralls and spoke gently to the animals as he fed them. His movements seemed relaxed and natural as he went about his duties. But Velkoth noticed details that others missed. Minho's posture was too perfect, situational awareness too sharp. He positioned himself to maintain clear sight lines to potential threats while appearing to focus entirely on his animals. A Kelthari soldier approached. Minho's body language shifted almost imperceptibly. His stance became more balanced, his weight distributed for quick movement. "Beautiful creatures," Minho said, scratching behind a cow's ear. "They provide milk for our children and meat for our tables. Simple needs, simple pleasures." But his eyes were anything but simple. They constantly moved, cataloging positions, assessing threats, calculating distances. These were the eyes of someone trained to kill, not someone who spent his days milking cows. The most unsettling observation came during a meeting between the colonists and Commander Vixver. Bo Young Park sat at a simple wooden table, her hands folded in her lap like a patient grandmother. She wore a faded dress and spoke in soft, measured tones about crop yields and harvest schedules. "We typically produce enough grain to feed about 10,000 people," she explained, her voice carrying the gentle cadence of someone discussing household matters. "Our vegetable gardens provide fresh produce year-round, and our livestock gives us protein and dairy products." But when Commander Dexfer asked about supply chain logistics, Bo Young's questions became too precise, too strategically minded. She wanted to know about transport schedules, security protocols, and distribution networks. Her understanding of military logistics was too sophisticated for a farming administrator. "We want to ensure our contributions reach those who need them most efficiently," she explained when Nexversaid looked puzzled by her detailed questions. Velkoth watched the exchange carefully. Bo Young's manner remained warm and grandmotherly, but her questions revealed a mind that understood complex operational planning. She spoke with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to command, someone who had made life-and-death decisions. As the days passed, Velkoth began to notice more inconsistencies. The colonists worked too efficiently, communicated too subtly, and maintained too perfect a balance between appearing helpless and staying operationally ready. Something was very wrong with this simple farming colony. The holographic display in the Kelthari war room showed a galaxy painted in blood and conquest. Red markers indicated worlds that had fallen to the Empire's might, while yellow ones marked planets currently under assault. Commander the Selver studied the tactical overview with satisfaction, noting how the red zones had expanded dramatically. "Over the past 5 years, the Nexari Republic has finally surrendered," reported his communications officer. "Their homeworld accepted our terms after we demonstrated the planet killer on their moon." Dexfer nodded approvingly. The Nexari had been stubborn, holding out for 3 months before finally understanding that resistance was futile. Their moon had been split in half as a demonstration of Kelthari power, its fragments now forming a debris ring that served as a permanent reminder of the Empire's capabilities. "That brings our total to 13 worlds cracked," the tactical officer added. "The psychological impact has been substantial. Most colonies surrender immediately when our fleets arrive." The Empire's expansion had been methodical and devastating. They possessed weapons that could split planets like ripe fruit, turning entire worlds into asteroid fields. Civilizations that had stood for millennia were reduced to dust and memory. The Kelthari moved through the galaxy like a plague, consuming everything in their path. "Any word from the agricultural survey team?" Dexfer asked. "They report standard. Compliance from the human farming colony. Resistance. Full cooperation with tribute assessments." Dexfer dismissed the report with a wave of his hand. Farming colonies were beneath his interest. His mind was already focused on the next major conquest, a heavily defended star system that would require the full might of the Empire's war machine. far below the surface of Kepler-4 for to be, hidden beneath what appeared to be a simple grain storage facility, Jo-young Kim sat in a chamber that officially did not exist. The walls were lined with quantum communication arrays and tactical displays that showed star maps extending across half the galaxy. Her fingers moved across holographic controls with the practiced ease of someone who had spent years managing complex military operations. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The message materialized in the air before her, its encryption so advanced that it would take the Kelthari Empire's best computers centuries to decode even a single word. Phase 2 initiated, the message read. Maintain operational security. Guests arriving soon. Sui-young acknowledged the transmission with a brief response code, then initiated the secure deletion protocol. The message vanished as if it had never existed, leaving no trace in the communication logs. She stood and smoothed her simple work dress, transforming herself once again into the colony's agricultural coordinator. The hidden chamber sealed itself behind her as she climbed the concealed stairs. Above ground, the storage facility looked exactly like what it claimed to be, a simple warehouse filled with grain silos and farming equipment. The Kelthari soldiers who occasionally patrolled the area saw nothing unusual, their scanners detecting only the expected agricultural signatures. Sui-young emerged into the afternoon sunlight, blinking as her eyes adjusted to the brightness around her. The colony continued its elaborate performance. Every colonist played their role perfectly, maintaining the illusion that had fooled the Kelthari Empire's best intelligence officers. Donghan Park worked near the livestock pens. His movements slow and deliberate as he spread fresh hay for the animals. To any observer, he appeared to be nothing more than a dedicated farm worker, concerned only with the welfare of his charges. His weathered hands moved gently as he checked each animal, speaking to them in soft, reassuring tones. But behind his peaceful expression, Donghan's mind was reviewing technical specifications for plasma rifles and quantum explosives. He mentally cataloged the positions of every Kelthari soldier in the settlement, calculating firing solutions and escape routes. His years as a Special Forces operative had taught him to think tactically even while performing the most mundane tasks. The cow he was feeding nudged his shoulder affectionately, and he smiled genuinely. The animals had no idea they were part of an elaborate military deception. They provided real milk and meat for the colony, making the agricultural cover story completely authentic. Near the school building, Sunmi Lee knelt in the garden with a group of young Kelthari soldiers, teaching them about crop rotation and soil management. Her voice was patient and kind as she explained how different plants helped restore nutrients to the earth. The alien soldiers listened with genuine interest, finding the agricultural knowledge surprisingly fascinating. You see, Sunmi said, holding up a handful of rich soil, these plants fix nitrogen from the air. It's making the ground more fertile for the next season's crops. It's all about balance and patience. While she spoke, the communication device hidden in her ear provided a constant stream of encrypted data. She monitored Kelthari military frequencies, tracked their patrol schedules, and analyzed their communication patterns. Her expertise in electronic warfare remained sharp, even as she played the role of a simple gardening teacher. The young Kelthari soldiers saw only what they expected to see: a human woman sharing knowledge about farming techniques. They failed to notice the subtle hand signals she exchanged with other colonists, the way she positioned herself to observe their equipment, or how her questions about their homeworlds revealed detailed knowledge of Kelthari military organization. Throughout the settlement, similar scenes played out with perfect coordination. Every colonist maintained their cover while simultaneously preparing for what was to come. They passed information through coded gestures, conducted equipment checks disguised as routine maintenance, and positioned themselves at strategic points that would become crucial when the time came to act. The Kelthari occupiers remained completely unaware that they were living among some of humanity's most dangerous military specialists, all of whom were waiting patiently for the right moment to reveal their true nature. Admiral Kekstara's massive flagship emerged from hyperspace with the confident grace of a predator that had never known defeat. Behind her, 300 warships of the Kelthari Empire's main conquest fleet spread across the star system like a dark cloud of destruction. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of reducing entire planets to cosmic dust. Status report on the Advanced Occupation Force Kexthera commanded from her throne-like command chair. Her scarred face bore the marks of countless battles, and her eyes held the cold certainty of someone who had personally overseen the destruction of 17 civilizations. The communication officer worked frantically at his console, his forearms moving across multiple control panels simultaneously. "Admiral, we're detecting no response from Commander Thexver's fleet. Their ships appear to be drifting in orbit around the planet." Kexthera's head fins flared with irritation. "Drifting? Explain." "Life signs are present aboard all vessels, but power systems are completely offline. No weapon signatures, no engine activity, no communication responses. The crews appear to be unconscious but alive." The Admiral's claws dug into the armrests of her chair. In 50 years of conquest, she had never encountered a situation like this. Primitive farming colonies didn't possess the technology to disable an entire Kelthari fleet. The very idea was impossible.
Oh.
"Deploy full scanning arrays," she ordered. "I want to know what happened to those ships." On the planet's surface below, the transformation had already begun. The moment the main fleet appeared on long-range sensors, every building in the colony started moving. What had appeared to be simple farmhouses and storage facilities began retracting into the ground with mechanical precision. Underground hydraulic systems activated, revealing the true nature of the installation. Hundash Wukim dropped his farmers, disguised as his modest home, folded away to reveal a military command bunker. His weathered hands, which had seemed so comfortable holding farming tools, now moved with deadly efficiency across tactical control panels. The simple clothes disappeared, replaced by the black uniform of a Human Defense Corps Special Operations Officer. "Perimeter defense systems online," he reported, his voice now carrying the crisp authority of someone trained in military communication protocols. "All civilian facades retracted, your weapons hot and ready for engagement." The grain silos that had dotted the landscape split open like metallic flowers, revealing the quantum disruptor arrays hidden within. These weapons represented technology that the galaxy had never seen before, capable of disrupting matter at the subatomic level. The Kelthari Empire's advanced shielding systems would be useless against them. B.O. Young Park stood in the main command center, her transformation the most dramatic of all. Gone was the gentle grandmother in her simple dress and apron. In her place stood Fleet Admiral Park, her uniform decorated with medals earned in battles that officially never happened. Her kind eyes now held the steel determination of someone who had spent decades preparing for this exact moment. "All units, this is Admiral Park," she announced, her voice broadcast across the entire installation. "Operation Harvest Moon is now active. Show our guests what human farmers are truly capable of." The response was immediate and devastating. The quantum disruptor arrays fired in perfect synchronization, their energy beams invisible to the naked eye, but deadly beyond imagination. The massive Kelthari flagship, a vessel that had survived the destruction of 13 worlds, found its shields failing in seconds. Impossible. Admiral Kexthera screamed as her command center erupted in sparks and alarm klaxons. No planetary installation has this kind of firepower. Her weapons officer tried desperately to return fire, but the ship's targeting systems had been completely disabled. Every attempt to lock on to the human installation failed, as their sensors registered nothing but empty farmland below.
"Admiral?"
"Our planet killer weapons are offline," the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with panic. "Something is interfering with the charging sequences." Deep beneath the colony, Jamin Lee sat in a control room that hadn't existed hours before. His hands moved across holographic displays that showed the real-time status of every Kelthari vessel in the system. The technology he operated was so advanced that it seemed almost magical, capable of reaching across space to disable enemy systems without leaving any trace. "Gravity manipulation fields are online," he reported calmly, beginning structural disruption of enemy capital ships. The largest Kelthari warships began to tear themselves apart from within. Invisible forces grabbed their hull plating and twisted it like paper, opening massive breaches that vented atmosphere into space. The crews found themselves floating helplessly in zero gravity as their ship's artificial gravity systems failed. Minho Park, no longer pretending to be a simple livestock keeper, coordinated the assault from a tactical command position. True expertise lay in electronic warfare, and he systematically shut down every Kelthari communication system, navigation computer, and weapon control interface. "Enemy fleet is completely disabled," he reported. "All vessels are weapons cold and drifting. No casualties among enemy crews." The entire engagement lasted exactly 9 minutes. The Kelthari Empire's most powerful conquest fleet, which had reduced entire star systems to rubble, now floated helplessly in space. Their crews were alive but defeated. Their weapon systems permanently disabled by technology they had never encountered. Admiral Kexthar sat in her darkened command center, emergency, lighting casting eerie shadows across her scarred face. Around her, her officers worked frantically to restore even basic ship functions, but nothing responded to their commands.
"Hey, what are they?"
she whispered, staring at the peaceful-looking planet below. "What kind of farmers possess such power?" The answer came in the form of a transmission from the surface, delivered in the calm, patient voice of Admiral Park. "This is humanity's message to the galaxy. We are farmers, teachers, and peaceful colonists. But we are also guardians of those who cannot protect themselves. Your empire of conquest ends today." The Galactic Communication Network hummed with activity as Admiral Boyoung Park's message spread across thousands of star systems. Her image appeared on screens throughout the galaxy, no longer the gentle grandmother who had offered bread to invaders, but a seasoned military commander whose uniform bore the insignia of humanity's most elite forces. "Ass!" "By the Kelthari Empire," she began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, "your liberation begins today. For too long you have lived under the shadow of fear, watching as worlds were destroyed and civilizations were crushed. That era is now over." The transmission reached every corner of the galaxy, penetrating even the most heavily shielded communication networks. On thousands of worlds, beings who had lived in terror for decades watched in amazement as the woman who had seemed so harmless revealed her true nature. The Kelthari Empire believed they had found another easy conquest. Admiral Park continued. "They saw farmers working in fields and assumed we were helpless. They saw kindness and mistook it for weakness. They failed to understand that those who grow food to feed the hungry are the same people who will fight to protect the innocent." On the industrial world of Vex Prime, the Thorian workers who had been enslaved for 15 years watched the broadcast. In their cramped quarters, factory overseers, all Kelthari military personnel, had been mysteriously rendered unconscious hours earlier. The workers looked at each other with growing hope as they realized their oppressors were no longer in control. "The installation you attacked was not a farming colony," Admiral Park explained. "It was Outpost Demeter, a covert human military base designed to appear as a peaceful settlement. We have been aware of the Kelthari expansion for years, carefully preparing for this moment. Every move you made was anticipated. Every strategy you employed was countered before you even knew you were trapped. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic intelligence communities. The humans had somehow hidden an advanced military installation in plain sight, maintaining perfect operational security while an entire occupation force lived among them. The level of planning and discipline required for such a deception is beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen." Admiral Kexthara, still trapped aboard her powerless flagship, watched the broadcast with a mixture of horror and grudging respect. Her empire's intelligence services had analyzed the human colony for months, finding nothing but agricultural data and farming reports. The deception had been so complete that even their most advanced sensors had detected only what the humans wanted them to see. "We know there are others like the Kelthari," Admiral Park continued, her tone becoming more serious. "Those who believe, that strength gives them the right to enslave the weak. Those who think compassion is a flaw to be exploited. Let this be a lesson to all who would threaten peaceful worlds. Humanity protects what is precious to us. Those who mistake our kindness for weakness do so at their own peril. The message had an immediate effect across the galaxy. On Nexus 7, the resistance movement that had been hiding in the mountains for 3 years suddenly found their Kelthari overlords fleeing in panic. The news that the Empire's main conquest fleet had been destroyed in 9 minutes by farmers gave them hope they had thought was lost forever. Jamin Lee sat in the technical control room, monitoring the cascade of rebellion spreading across the galaxy. His displays showed communication intercepts from dozens of worlds, where oppressed populations were rising up against their Kelthari occupiers. Empire's forces, demoralized by the impossible defeat of their most powerful fleet, offered little resistance. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Kelthari sector commanders," he reported to Admiral Park. "They're asking for terms?" "Tell them the terms are simple," she replied. "Complete withdrawal from all occupied territories, reparations for the worlds they destroyed, and the dismantling of their planet-killer weapons. They have 12 hours to comply." The surrender came even faster than expected. Within 6 hours, the Kelthari High Command transmitted their unconditional acceptance of all human demands. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for decades collapsed in a single day. It's brought down by the revelation that their victims were not as helpless as they had appeared. Sol Young Kim emerged from her hidden command center, once again wearing the simple clothes of an agricultural coordinator. Round her, the installation began its transformation back into a peaceful farming colony. The weapon systems retracted into their hidden positions. The buildings emerged from their underground bunkers, and the facade of rural tranquility was restored. "Phase 3 is complete," she reported to Admiral Park. "The colony is returning to agricultural configuration. The refugees from the liberated worlds will begin arriving within the week." Admiral Park nodded with satisfaction. The real farming colonies of humanity were already preparing to receive the galaxy's displaced populations. These settlements, unlike Outpost Demeter, truly were peaceful agricultural communities, but they would never again be defenseless. Protected by hidden guardians who ensured that no aggressor would mistake human compassion for vulnerability. Hyun-Woo Kim returned to his fields, his hands once again guiding the harvester through rows of golden grain. The difference now was that beings from across the galaxy watched him work, not as a potential victim to be conquered, but as a symbol of the strength that could be found in those who chose to nurture life rather than destroy it. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson that would echo through the ages. Never underestimate the farmers who feed the warriors. Those who grow food to sustain life possess the same determination that drives them to protect the innocent, and their kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. In the end, the greatest victory was not the defeat of the Kelthari Empire, but the knowledge that peaceful beings could defend themselves without becoming the monsters they opposed. The harvest had been gathered, and the galaxy was finally free to grow.